Yeah, so it's perhaps time to look ahead to another rugby season. It's February, and I know it's still too hot to be really play, and the grounds are too hot to be playing rugby. But this is the world we've been living in since about 1996, where rugby's started sort of mid to late February. At least I think I recall even Super 14 they were starting on the 10th of as early as January, which so be thankful that it's late February now. So yeah, look, it is certainly time. Look, it's certainly it feels like it's been a long time since we've had rugby in New Zealand. I guess you got to remember, of course, we've just come off the end of a Rugby World Cup cycle. And so, of course, no autumn tours last year. So, yeah, we're pretty much our rugby diet's pretty much been on Japanese rugby, Northern Hemisphere stuff. Thank God for the South Africans. And yeah, so I guess it feels like a very, very long time, and everyone's perhaps kind of looking forward to rugby. I guess I don't know what the impact of the All Blacks making the Rugby World Cup final against the odds will have on the game. I mean, there's still lots of talk as if rugby is dying, it's not relevant. I think maybe that's just a media beat out, who knows. But I think once rugby season kicks off proper, certainly you're talking more like, as we head into the colder months, like after daylight saving ends, I think it will certainly pick up. But look, yeah, look, obviously the season kicks off the penultimate weekend of February, and yeah, look, I think it's probably worth time that we have a look ahead to what should be a very, very intriguing Super Rugby Pacific of 2024.
Does not need much space. Macus bringing McLeod on the inside. He's got Drummond with him. This is beautiful from the Crusaders at their very best.
Yes, the Crusaders. Well, I think for years we've sort of been waiting for the year that the Crusaders finally do a decline, maybe like the New England Patriots of the 2023's NFL season. I don't I don't think 2024 is gonna be that season. I don't think they're gonna finish last like they did in the first Super 12 season. It's look. I think the elements are still look. While certainly losing Scott Robertson, someone who's delivered tremendous success to the Crusaders since he was there. And the loss of I think Cody Taylor's going to have a break. They're going to lost Richie Mwanga, a whole host of players, but despite the core, they've still got a couple of really strong professionals who one might argue are the backbone of this Crusaders franchise. And I think Rob Penny himself is a very good coach. He's very experienced. He might not be the same. He might be a total, not the same character, not the same style as Scott Robertson, but he's got a lot of experience. And I guess most importantly, he knows the Canterbury culture and structure. So I think it's a very good hire, and I think it would just build on what Scott Robertson has done. Of course, I think given that there's a lot of change at the Crusaders, that this could be the year where they stumble a bit, and I think a lot of New Zealand rugby fans are hoping that's the case, because I think, let's be honest, I think we're kind of a little bit sick of the Crusaders winning all the time, but yeah, at the same time, of course, I would not be surprised, if the Crusaders were to pull off another Super Rugby success again, and I think they are still very, very well placed to do that. Even with all the changes in personnel, I guess the reason I'm saying I think they'll finish second this year. I think they've got the Chiefs twice, they've got the Blues twice, and they've also they've got quite a sort of tough middle of the season. They've got where they play the Hurricanes, Blues, and the Chiefs. But then of course it gets a bit. They do have a little bit of respite. They got the Rebels Reds on consecutive weekends, and before going down to Dunedin, they do have to travel to Canberra to play the Brumbies, but they do finish against Moana Pacifica. So I think Crusaders fans, not certainly when 8 out of 14 goes in, Crusaders fans definitely do not need to panic, and I think they will romp into the semi-final. I think obviously the key would be those games against the Chiefs, in terms of where the Crusaders will finish, along with how they do in the New Zealand games, because that will ultimately, I think that, if they can't beat the Chiefs, they will finish second, and look, they'll have to do that trip to Hamilton, which I'm sure they'll, given what happened last year, they'll have no qualms about. But I just also think, the Chiefs will be a bit smarter this year, and taking on the Crusaders. So yeah, we shall see. I think that, I'd be surprised if the Crusaders didn't make the finals though. So there you go. If there is one team that I think really has to make 2024 count and win the whole thing, I think it's got to be the Chiefs. Look, there are so many, you're thinking, okay, there's the Crusaders still, they're always good. There's the Blues, who can be good. And then there's the Hurricanes, the Highlanders can be good on their day. But I think, you consider what happened last year with the Chiefs. They finished top. They hosted the final. They probably should have gone on. They beat the Crusaders twice during the regular season, and then just let it slip in the final at home in Hamilton. Well, I know there's a lot of talk about refereeing calls, but ultimately the Chiefs were rattled. And, I guess when you have that home advantage, even if it is against the Crusaders, they had worked so hard to get to that point. It was they just kind of bottled at the end. And I guess this season now, you're looking at the other teams, particularly, you're looking at the Crusaders. Scott Robertson's obviously gone to the All Blacks. They've had a lot of changes in terms of personnel, like, for instance, Richie Mo'unga's gone. A whole lot of other players have gone. You look at the other Super Rugby teams, the Canes have a new head coach. Highlands are going through a lot of changes, and you'd think, the Chiefs, on the other hand, have had a lot. They still have Clayton McMillan. They still have a lot of their pieces. They've still got Sam Cane, who is the incumbent All Black captain as we speak. Whether he remains All Black captain remains to be seen under Scott Robertson, but you still have that experienced player there. You've got players who are going to be making big pushes for to be in Scott Robertson's first All Black side. You've got like Sami Penny-Finas, Josh Lord, all those, and of course, yes, and then you're thinking players like Anton Leonard-Brown, Damian McKenzie. They are all wanting to make a big case. And Imoni Narawa once he's fit. So I think that I think that's, for me, the Chiefs are the team to beat in 2024. Look, they may not romp home as easy as they did last year, but given the caliber of players that they've got, I think they should really be in a good position to finish first and go on to win what would be their third Super Rugby title. And look, it's going to be a tough start. They've got the Crusaders first up in a rematch, and in fact we'll be playing the Crusaders twice in this first 2 months of the competition. After they open again, they play the Brumbies after that in Melbourne, and then they travel on to Brisbane for the Reds before returning home to take on the Fijian Drua and Highlanders, both teams that they should really beat at home. And then there's a brief trip to Christchurch to take on the Crusaders before they return from Moana Pacifica, then head off to play the Hurricanes, the Waratahs, and in fact they get Moana Pacifica twice. And the other New Zealand team they have to play tight besides the Crusaders is the Hurricanes. Before they finish off at Eden Park against the Blues. Chiefs have had the win the edge over the Blues. So if you look at their schedule, I think I think they're looking, apart from Crusaders, I think the schedule looks pretty good for Chiefs fans, but we're just going by what happened last season, so anything can happen.
Good defensive tackle from Harmon. Morby. Oh, try time. O'Reilly gets in. James O'Reilly scores.
What to make of the Hurricanes? Well, so Jason Holland's now joined the Scott Robertson Revolution, and so that means Clark Laidlaw will be taking over as head coach. Clark does come in with reasonably good record. He was, of course, the New Zealand Sevens coach. So this will sort of be his first foray into into Super Rugby. It's tricky to make. It is a bit tricky to make it the Hurricanes. Look, there is definitely talent in there in that side. There's certainly a lot of young players. They'll be hoping to get TJ Perinara to lead those very young players. I think if you're thinking of talent who could potentially make the All Blacks, I'm thinking Ruben Love. But there's also a couple of players who've been there, done that for quite a while. Who might very well potentially feature in the All Blacks if they're players to the current incumbents. Duplessis Karifi, for instance, who's been he's been consistently good. You got Devon Flanders, who was one of the best players in the NPC, and then of course you've got last year's rookie of the year, Cam Roygard, who will be wanting to kick on after a superb first full season for the Hurricanes and the All Blacks. So I guess so. Canes are on the road. They do start in Perth before they return home to they actually take on the Reds in Melbourne. And then they've got the Hurricanes, they got the Blues, and then the Crusaders on consecutive weeks. And then they've got they return to Dunedin to take on Highlanders, where they got more than preseason. Although no one really takes an eye about preseason. That's just to get players up. They will play the Blues twice, and the Chiefs twice. So a pretty difficult route you have to say for the Canes. I guess they have to play the Chiefs twice. They've got the Blues, who have recently had a bit of a leg up on them. And they only had Moana Pacifica once. But I think nevertheless, I still think the Hurricanes should make I think they're potentially good enough for the top four. Not sure if they're good enough to win the whole thing, but I mean, you never know with Clark Laidlaw, with TJ Perinara possibly back, maybe wanting one last shot of the All Blacks jersey. Maybe the Hurricanes could surprise them. I think they will. I think Wellington I think the Hurricanes need to do pretty well. Crowds in Wellington have certainly been on the decline in the last couple of years. I think certainly if they have a really, really good season, where they can make a good run in the playoffs, then they might be able to attract a bit more of that the crowds that have sort of disappeared in the last couple of years.
Quick hands, lovely hands from the Blues, away out to the left wing of Clark.
Yeah, what to make of the Blues? Well, I mean, it's kind of epitomizes the sort of history of the franchise. Talking even the first 2 years when they dominated Super Rugby. It's just always Auckland. The Blues have always had the talent, but they're just shambles off the field. They've just never been able to attract. For a variety of reasons. I think you're thinking coaches, you're thinking politics, you're thinking not having a first five. The Blues, have just underwhelmed despite having the largest population base in New Zealand and the biggest wealth of talent you've got, and the most easily the best club rugby competition, no offense to Christchurch, in Auckland, and yet they're just you're thinking one Super Rugby title since 1997 back in 2003, and that was with Graham Henry at the helm. sort of as a technical director, and they've made a couple. I mean, I know. Look, I know they've won Super Rugby, Trans-Tasman or whatever that was, but it's by and large the Blues record has kind of continued to underwhelm. And I guess you go into this season. Look, Leon McDonald's moved on. He did a lot to sort of bring the Blues back to where they were, but I think they were still kind of a long way off, like from the Crusaders. Last season was pretty disappointing for the Blues. It was sort of, I think the Chiefs certainly took their big rivals across the Bombays, took a lot of their stole a bit of their thunder, and yeah, I guess, and at the same time, Auckland didn't exactly perform well. I mean, they've got some good players, but but again, they've always had good players. So yes, but having said that, I think you still expect them. I think there should be a top 3 team behind the Chiefs and the Crusaders, just simply because of their depth. And I think Vern Cotter is a very underrated coach. He, of course, coached. He was the Scotland coach before Gregor Townsend. He sort of helped trigger this, this rapid development that's, has seen this Scottish team now become one of the most potent teams in world rugby. But of course, he's coming back to Super Rugby now. It's a kind of different kettle of fish. But I think Vern Cotter, of course, with that experience with Bear Plenty, I think he could do really well, and I think if they were to sneak second or third, get into the semi-finals, I think that's a pretty good first season for Vern Cotter, and then they can build from there. Obviously, the loss of Patrick Tuipulotu for a significant period of time is going to hurt them a lot in terms of leadership. But yeah, I mean that there are a couple of I guess you're thinking of Caleb Clark. He's sort of at a stage where he could he's at a point where he could really emerge as a leader there. Their schedule, so they've got obviously playing. They start off with Fiji and Drua at home, then they go over to play the Highlanders in Melbourne. They've got the Hurricanes twice and Highlanders twice. And the Crusaders twice. So moderately. Yeah, I think it's a reasonably good schedule. I mean, they only play the Chiefs right at the end. So I think they also got a couple of they've got the Brumbies in Auckland. They've got and the Force. I think all by and all, the thing the Blues should do have a reasonably good run of it to make to get up to third. And okay, I don't think I'll back them. I think they'll certainly get the wins against the 2 wins against the Highlanders and the Hurricanes. And yeah, even if they lose both games against the Crusaders, I think that should and they might, and they that should be enough to finish third. And by the time they play the Chiefs, it might be very good. The Chiefs might have clinched top spot, and Blues it's at Eden Park. So so I think Blues for third. I don't know if they'll be good enough to win the whole thing. They could very well be a finalist. They'll have to upset one of the Chiefs or the Blues or Chiefs or the Crusaders in order in the semis. So it depends what happens there. But yeah, I think as I said, I think semi-finalists, that's at a bare minimum, and I think they can say that the Blues have a lot to look forward to in the coming years with Vern Cotter.
Looks inside, Fakatava. Kenzie got the pace, going all the way. Fakatava the try.
So the Highlanders, well, it'd be a remiss of me to not talk about my team, as you can clearly see from the colours. Look, a lot of question marks about the Highlanders. Obviously, we are clearly heading into a period of transition now, and that transition is just going to continue now. We, lost Aaron's losing Nuggies, will be the key. This will be the first season we haven't had Nuggie in about 12 years. So it'll be interesting to see how the team performs. It's going to be a bit of a leadership void left behind. And I guess it's a big challenge to Clark Dermody. It'll be it's just, in order to show that he is still the best person for the job. I think getting Jamie Joseph as the technical director of the Highlanders will certainly help. Particularly when you consider there are a lot of good young players that are coming through the Highlanders. But yeah, I think the fortunate thing about the format, with Super Rugby is that, given the format, the Highlanders have a very good, chance of making the 8. I guess winning the whole thing is a completely different matter, because that, I think, it'll take a whole lot more just to win the competition. But I think a top 8 place, you consider the plight of the other Australian sides. I think you'd think, sure, it is absolutely reasonable. Look, I know last season there was issues, and I think you consider 2023. Yeah, I don't think they just didn't quite do enough against the non-New Zealand sides. New Zealand sides, clearly they struggled, but. Yeah, I mean, they lost games against the Australian sides that, in previous years they managed to win. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Look, I guess looking at the team, again, you still have, there's quality up front. You got the likes of Jermaine Ainsley, Ethan de Groot, of course, who is the best, undoubtedly, probably the best prop in New Zealand rugby. You got the experienced Daniel Leonard-Brown. Hookers will be interesting, of course. Yeah, you've got potential in Henry Bell, and then you've got Ricky Jackson, Jack Taylor. Locks, Fabian Holland has always been someone who's sort of been talked about. Pari Parkinson's, Will Tucker was, so I guess experienced Super Rugby players, the latter two. And then, Billy. I think the key boost is that Billy Harmon is still in the Highlanders, even though Crusaders. That would have been tempting for him to return to Christchurch to the Crusaders, given the amount of flux, the loss of talent up there. He could have easily gone back there, but he's decided to stay with the Highlanders, so that's good on him. I think he likes the culture down there. He's got good support. Hugh Ranton, Tom Sanders, Max Hicks is someone I watch out for. He's got a bit of potential, and Sean Withy. Halfbacks, of course. Look, I know they've lost Aaron Smith, but you still got Fakatava, and I think this is going to be a big campaign for him to see whether he is not just a one-season All Black, whether he could be a long-term and All Black first-choice halfback. Look, I think. He has had injuries, so that's kind of scuppered his progress. So, but this is his big chance now. He no longer is under the shadow of Aaron Smith. So yeah, this is it. It's certainly his chance to show what he can do. The first fives, I think Reece Patchell, the Welsh recruit, is going to be one to watch out for, I guess. Probably just because he's Welsh. Cam Miller, he's got talent, he's got a good brain. He's not electric in the same way as like Finn Russell. Sorry, I just watched fresh off Netflix. Finn Russell, Richie Mo'unga, but I think Cam Miller does have the potential to be a very solid playmaker. But I think that's all right if you consider the back line. The midfielders. You got Connor Garden Bishop, Sam Gilbert, Lowe, Timu, of course, one big name I should mention. It is literally a big name, Jacob Ratuma. Excuse the pronunciation. Let me start again. Jacob Ratumai Tavuki Nipkins. He was very good for Taranaki last season, and I'm pleased that the Highlanders got him, and I can't wait to see how he goes at this level. I hope could very well be a potential All Black there. So yeah, so exciting. Mercurial, young, inexperienced is all the word. They're a team that I think any other team won't take lightly. Certainly the Australian team, I think. I think we got a good easy start against Moana Pacifica. Then we've got the Blues, then a trip to Sydney, host the Brumbies, then we go to the Chiefs, and then Hurricanes. And then we've got got a tour of Australia Rebels Reds. That's going to be the key to the season. Whether we can make the 8. If we win both, and then I think that will put us in good stead. We don't play the Crusaders. I think. Oh, actually, so we only the good. I think the other thing is we play Moana Pacifica twice. I think, no offense, they are probably going to be the weakest team in the to play. And we only play the Crusaders once. We play the Blues twice. Yeah, look, I think, and we got Fiji tour. We finished off Fiji draw and in Wellington against the Hurricanes, who we played twice. So, and we also don't have. We only get the Chiefs once. So, I think we've got a real good shot of finishing the top 8 given the schedule. We get to avoid we only play the Chiefs and Crusaders once. I think they'll be the teams to avoid. So yeah, I'm optimistic about this season that we can improve. At least I think if we finish 7th or 8th, I think that would make it a very, very good season. Yeah, well, I guess there's not really. I mean, I generally don't cover the other teams because there's not a whole lot of coverage on the Australian teams. I know obviously the biggest story is that the Melbourne Rebels are in administration and their future is looking incredibly bleak after 12 rather uninspiring, after 12, 13 rather uninspiring years in Super Rugby. Look, I mean, Rugby Australia's always wanted to have a franchise in Melbourne, just to, because the NRL does. It's AFL Heartland, but the Rebels just have not taken off. I think the evidence is that rugby union does not have any interest in Melbourne. Is the fact that if you've had the Super Rugby, the Magic Weekend, and the crowds have been very poor. I think if you go even further back, there was Australia France, which had less than 10,000 attend at the Telstra Dome or the Marvel Stadium. It is perhaps possibly we're looking at a stage where rugby union finally calls it quits in Melbourne, which I guess it's not great ahead of as they look to host the Rugby World Cup, and Melbourne is going to host some games. I think it is still of the understanding. I think they're still getting British and Irish Lions games with the next tour. But yeah, so that's a bit of a. But nevertheless, I mean, the Force are going reasonably well, even though, I mean, they may not necessarily the personnel, but they still have a lot of. They've got a very, very strong backing in Western Australia, and I think, and it's a very popular location for expat South Africans and New Zealanders to play. So I think the Force should be okay. And of course, yeah, you've got the Brumbies, Waratahs, Reds. If anything, I think dropping the Rebels, if that does happen, dropping a franchise could possibly be a good thing for Australian rugby, because the depth is just not there. The rugby union is bleeding a lot of cash. There's just not enough viewership. The game has just shrunk in Australia. They just cannot support. Right, I think I would even think 3 is the ideal number for Australian rugby, but they're not gonna. They went through that process of culling teams, back in 2018, and I don't think they want to really go through that unless finances force their hand. On the flip side, you've got Fiji and Drua, who are continuing to go strength to strength. In terms of popularity, they made the quarterfinals. I guess there's a word of caution. A lot of their players who helped them make the quarterfinals have now moved on to bigger contracts in France. And I guess in a way that was how Fijian Drua was modeled, sort of as pathway for young Fijian rugby players to get into professional rugby, while having sort of like a team based in Fiji or Australia initially. And yeah, but I guess it is going to be a challenge to repeat that and sort of develop that consistency. And really, they need to see that consistency. But having said that, if Fiji and Drua can make the quarterfinals with a young squad, then the future is very, very bright for Fijian rugby. And yeah, so I guess from that, I would think the Brumbies are still the strongest. I think the Waratahs will push them. Got a lot of question marks about the Reds, just simply because Brad Thorne is there, but they do have a lot of talent in the Reds, and they still play a pretty nice brand of football. I think Yeah, I think the liner, can't remember his first name. He's the son of the Grey Wallabies first fly half. I think he would sort of be someone to watch at the Reds. But I think it'll still be the Brumbies who will lead the way for Australia. I think I will be tipping them for a top four spot. I think there's a lot of, you just know what you're going to get with the Brumbies. And look, I think Larkham's still there, isn't he? So yeah, so I think they'll be the Brumbies fourth. I think the Waratahs. I think you'll get the Waratahs and the Reds in the. I think it'll be the Waratahs will be the other team definitely in the top eight. And then I think maybe you might see Reds might sneak in, and yeah, Fiji and Drua might, as I said, Fiji and Drua, they snuck in. It'll be, yeah, that would be truly an amazing achievement for them.
Yeah, so sorry, bit of a quick wardrobe change. Filming this at different times of the day and week. But yeah, look, that's my Super Rugby preview for 2024. And yeah, look, it's right now just speculation. And we really just need to see what happens come February 23rd. But yeah, it is certainly good to be able to watch rugby again. I mean, we're already watching Six Nations, but it's nice to see rugby at a time that we can watch rather than early in the morning. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the upcoming 2024 Super Rugby season and who you think will win, or any other thoughts on the future of the competition. And look, if you like this video, as always, feel free to like and subscribe.